Yeah.
Good evening and welcome, everybody. It's Wednesday, September 30th, 2020 at 7 o'clock. We have a planning board meeting. Present tonight, we have William LePage, member, Steve Wetruba, clerk of the board. We have myself, Daniel Edmondson, chairman, Bill Scanlon is our acting town planner, Michelle is our acting clerk, and Karen is available on the Zoom meeting. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I can't keep my picture open.
I've seen it the whole time.
I don't know what's wrong here.
All right, first item on the agenda to revise 10 bill conversion overlay district of the Dudley zoning bylaw by 1, amending 3.10.05 permitted uses to specify allowable commercial uses in combination with residential uses. Number 2, amending 3.10.07L standards to provide a process to waive the requirement that 10% of the proposed dwelling be restricted to low and moderate income households. And number 3, amending 3.10.10 action by the planning board to require the planning board to act on a special permit application within 90 days of the close of the public hearing. The article also proposes to amend Section 6 definitions by adding new definitions for community facility and event center, and by amending Section 2.03.02 use by district chart, by adding the 2 newly defined uses to the chart and designating in which districts the uses may be permitted. We have a couple speakers with us tonight. Ms. Carolyn Murray, would like to get the item started tonight?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If you recall, members of the board, back in the spring,
we were entertaining an amendment to the Mill Conversion Overlay District zoning bylaw at that time. And it received a favorable recommendation from the planning board, but unfortunately, it failed to meet the two-thirds vote that was required at town meeting. So based on some of the feedback that town officials took from that town meeting action, we got to work again over the course of the summer with a revised zoning amendment. So let's just refresh ourselves as to some of the things that the Mill Conversion Overlay District currently provides. And that is that with respect to what is defined as a mill conversion project, which is either a residential use or an assisted living facility that is constructed in conjunction with certain commercial uses, that would be a project requiring special permit from the planning board. Now, what is before you is a request to allow for a little more flexibility with respect to those commercial uses that have to be combined with a residential use in order to qualify as a mill conversion mill conversion project in the Mill Conversion Overlay District. As presently written, the Mill Conversion Overlay Bylaw limits those commercial uses to a restaurant, retail, or an office establishment. The proposed amendment that's before you tonight would expand those commercial uses to include retail sales and services, business or professional offices, bank or financial office, indoor commercial recreation, event center, community center, or an office establishment. Now, two new uses are identified there that don't currently exist in your zoning bylaw. And those two are the event center and the community facility. So in addition to seeking to amend the Mill Conversion Overlay District, we have added proposed definitions for community facility and an event center. We have also proposed amendments to the use table that would allow these two uses to be cited in various existing zoning districts, all by special permit or site plan review. And these would be additional commercial uses that could be combined with a residential use to comprise a mill conversion project. In addition, you'll recall back in June, there was a proposal at that time also to amend the Mill Conversion Overlay District with respect to the affordable housing component. The bylaw does call right now that if you have a residential development, that 10% of those units must be dedicated as affordable, as that term is defined for purposes of qualifying those units for the town's subsidized housing inventory under Chapter 40B. That is a requirement built into the Mill Conversion Overlay Bylaw currently. What this zoning amendment is seeking is to allow an applicant to seek a waiver from that 10% requirement. And that waiver would be a two-pronged process. One would be seeking a favorable recommendation from the Board of Selectmen, and then the Planning Board being allowed to grant that waiver. Then finally, the other item that's amended in this section is a holdover from the prior zoning amendment as well, but it's what I consider to be a housekeeping item, and it's in section 3.10.10 of the Mill Conversion Overlay Bylaw. Currently, your bylaw reads that the planning board must to the board. By state law, under special permit, the board has 90 days from the close of the public hearing, not from the application, but from the close of the public hearing, to render a decision. So we've proposed that amendment to make it consistent with state law, to change that language such that the board would have that full amount of time. And I'd be happy to answer any questions the board may have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Any questions from the board? Lou, I think you're out there. Do you have anything to add or questions?
Oh,
All good to go. All right. Want to call the next speaker?
Yes.
Yep. Stephen Medus? Daus? Excuse me for the last name. Are you present?
thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can you hear me?
I sure can.
Yes.
Thank you. Yep, so Stephen Medaus of Myrick O'Connell, here on behalf of Camden Management Partners, owners of the Stevens Mill. And first I want to thank the planning board for its favorable recommendation to the prior proposal for the amendment to the mill conversion overlay district zoning bylaw. And town council gave
Mr.
a
Chairman,
comprehensive overview of what these
Steve
changes are.
Manos is attorney
They're
for
rather
Camden,
finite in my
the
view,
developer.
and
the first person you called.
it's important to note, I went back and watched the annual town meeting, and one of the objections seemed to be that there was a misunderstanding that all uses now would require a special permit, but the special permit is applicable only to a mill conversion project pursuant to the overlay. So the underlying zoning remains in place, and the underlying zoning is available to a property owner in the overlay. We're only talking about tweaking, if you will, the overlay district. And these proposed amendments to allow for waivers from the commercial development requirement and a waiver of the 10% affordable units, as town council described and as written in the amendment, require 2 votes of 2 boards of the town of Dudley, both the Board of Selectmen and the Planning Board. And of course, boards must meet in public, so residents would have an opportunity to attend those meetings. But it certainly would have to be found in the best interest of the town to get a favorable vote from 2 boards to grant the waiver. So I think there's more than adequate protection for the town to adopt these proposed amendments. But the reason they're important for not just this developer, but I think any potential developer that's going to look at pursuing a mill conversion project, is that they offer some opportunity for flexibility in putting together a package to complete a conversion of the historic building. You know, a project like this takes a lot of money, and there are investors that would back the project, and some of those components, if required, like a commercial development in this market, you know, during COVID, is not a favorable investment these days. We've seen a lot of proposed commercial retail developments fall away. Residential development, however, I think is still a favorable proposal in the marketplace for investors. And so it's not known yet for this particular developer exactly what's going to be required to get this project financeable, if you will. So these revisions give us the opportunity to put together a package that is going to enhance the likelihood of success, that we could put together a financial package with investors to make the project proceed. So that's the importance of it, flexibility, with plenty of oversight for the town, that whatever we bring forward, or any developer brings forward, not just my client, the town has sufficient oversight to consider the proposal. So I know that Mr. Waddell from Camden is on the line. I don't know if any of the project team wants to speak on the matter.
John
Gumpert's on as well. Oh, okay, and Mr. Gumpert's here. So, John, you or Andrew want to speak towards the merits of the amendment beyond what I just stated, or?
I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay. And I know we submitted some renderings just to give the board a sense of the possibilities, if you will. And again, these amendments make the likelihood greater, I think, than under the current bylaw. But with all zoning changes, it's not limited to one specific project. It would be or any developer that might follow us or in the overlay district. So, but we would respectfully request the favorable recommendation again of the planning board in support of these amendments for the fall town meeting.
All right, thank you for your statements. I appreciate it. Just want to point out that one of the important things I think you said was the flexibility and the opportunity for the developer. Any project, even if it's a home improvement project, you have to have some flexibility and opportunity to make things work. And the important thing here is that the town retains the oversight. 2 boards need to vote. All good points. In the meantime, about 5 minutes ago or so, member Richard Clark joined us. So just want to say good evening. Yep. So is there any questions from the board?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Mr. Joseph.
2 questions. I have a couple of participants in this Zoom meeting. One says meeting room 321A, and I don't know if there are individuals in there. And another one is just simply identified as Gary. And my question is, do any of those people have any objection to this proposal, specifically or in principle? Oh, it's always nice not to hear any.
Bill, how do we ask these 2 gentlemen if they have, or two participants if they have anything?
They are certainly willing to participate. They can, indicate by waving, and I can recognize them, or they might be able to just unmute and speak.
Okay. So is the feed meeting room 321A? That's right here, right? So that's for any speakers that might be here? Okay. All right, so Mr. Joseph, as far as I can tell, we don't have any feedback to your question. Looks like there's either a yay or a yay.
That's wonderful news.
Dan, do you want to see if Andrew would like to present some of the renderings?
Yes.
Andrew? You want me to call them up, Andrew, or can you do it from there?
I think I can do it from here.
Okay.
I'm pretending I'm more savvy than I am, so I might need your help. Let me just share a screen here. Okay. I don't think I'm allowed to share the screen from here, Bill.
Okay.
So if you could do that, if you could pull them up. It's saying, I just try to share it, it's saying disabled.
Hi, Richard.
Okay.
Yeah, there you go.
Thank you.
Do you have anything you want to say about this, Andrew?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yes, John, we're looking at the renderings. If you want to go ahead and chime in, are you there, John? Okay.
Yes, I am.
Okay, we're just looking at the renderings. You want to just go through the exterior, the number of units, the commercial space or the event space, and kind of parallel it, if you would. I don't want to do it for you, John, to the Luray Mill and the interiors, so they can kind of get a flavor of what we're actually looking to preserve and rehabilitate here.
Okay, so the renderings are exterior renderings of the existing building as modified by our proposed, mill renovation, which is turning the mill into approximately 154 units, primarily 1 and 2 bedroom units. I think completely studio 1 and 2 bedroom units. Similar unit finish to the Luray Mill we did in Gastonia, North Carolina, and currently the Woodside Mill that we're doing in Greenville, South Carolina, both of which are similar in design and finish. But the renderings themselves primarily show the existing building and how great it looks. And so that's what we've got.
And John, you
But
might.
yeah, I was asked earlier if the rendering showed anything to do with the river, and one of the things we're excited about is fronting this project on the river and showing some of the river from the project and actually having a probably an overlook at the river so that the project can enjoy that as well. So that's one of the things that excites us about this project. The other thing that excites us is it's very similar to some of the recent projects that we've been involved with, and so we're just excited for the opportunity.
I think most of us are excited as well. Any questions, comments regarding the renderings? Oh, there's some interiors.
Mr. Chairman, it's hard to believe that what we drive by every day will look like that at some point.
Question?
Yes, Mr. Joseph.
As you know, there are a number of naysayers in Dudley who oppose or find a reason to oppose almost everything. And part of the scuttlebutt that they're trying to circulate is the amount of income that will be generated in property taxes once this project is complete. Does anyone have an estimate of that amount?
No, we're still working through where that number ends up.
Now let me ask this then. It would no doubt be substantially higher than the current property tax being paid. Is that correct?
Yes, it's. I think the current taxes, which have been probably sub $14,000 a year.
Okay.
So yeah, it would be more than that, and it would gradually increase
As the apartments were rented and occupied.
and as the apartment, as the development itself progresses.
Okay, that's great news. Just wanted to clarify that.
I have a question.
Go for it, Steve.
I was just curious, are these renderings that we're seeing here, are they going to be available at the annual town meeting for display?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
All right, Mr. Joseph got the party started with the Board of Selectmen. We do have some other members here in our audience. Any comments? None? Good to go. Mr. Ruda? All right. Want to open the floor to any comments in the public, or? Any members of the public have a comment, or?
No, not that I can see.
Nothing right now. So our goal here is either in this meeting or the next meeting to take a vote to recommend this project or this proposals for the mill conversion overlay district revisions for the town meeting.
So you're looking for a motion?
Well, if the board's pleasure right now, we can do that. We also have the option to wait until next meeting.
Mr. Chair,
no further comments, or?
I make a motion that we take a vote on whether or not to endorse the amendments to the articles as presented. Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second to endorse.
Question?
Yes, Mr. Joseph.
Is this a public hearing?
It is?
Yes.
And don't you have to wait till the public hearing is closed before you can take a motion?
I believe he is correct.
Yes, he is.
So I'm sorry.
So we have no comments from the public, nobody coming in, no emails, nothing?
Correct.
Good to close the meeting, the public
Yes.
portion of the hearing? All right. That being said, we are now closing the public hearing. And then I will once again look for a proposal or a motion.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, how did I just word that? I had it so eloquently the first time, I just lost it.
I think the motion would be...
I'd like to make a motion that we take a vote to endorse the amendments to the articles as presented.
You could perhaps change endorse to recommend.
Recommend?
Adoption, right.
Okay.
Mr.
I make
Chairman.
a motion.
Oh,
Go ahead.
I was just going to second the motion. I remembered my part anyway.
So you really want me to reread that?
Sure.
Okay, all right. Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we vote to
Recommend.
the amendments to the articles as presented.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I would second the motion.
So I have a motion and a second to vote to recommend the amendments to the zoning articles as presented. Do we need to do a roll call vote since Lou's online? All right, so we need to do a roll call. Lou, I'm going to start with you first.
Yay.
All right. Bill?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Richard?
Yes.
And myself, yes.
So is that's recorded as a unanimous 5-0
That
vote?
is a unanimous vote, that's correct.
Okay.
Thank you.
No, thank you everybody for your presentations and your time. It's appreciated.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Okay, guys. Thanks again.
Good evening.
Good evening. Moving on to number 2. All right, item 2 on our agenda tonight, we have a petition, the landowner, Thomas, excuse me if I get the last name wrong, Kozinski, originally submitted by prospective purchaser Darius Ochaki to rezone property at 115 Schofield Ave to Industrial 130. The property is currently zoned Industrial 43. The property is also known as Assessors Map 124, Parcel 12. This is also a public hearing, which is now open. Get my glasses off so I can see again.
As well as my father, they were here last weekend, last meeting. You know, we're just kind of following up with what was going on last meeting.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman. I'm having some difficulty.
Yeah.
Let's have some audio issues.
All right, I'll start on over. Let me know when you're ready.
You guys good?
Yeah, once again, Dawid Dochodzki, representing Tomek and Dariusz. They were here last meeting. We just were, you know, following up with what happened last meeting and what we were proposing. I am here with Michaela, and she brought forward a presentation for you guys to look at, you know, asked to show you with what we plan on doing with that, you know, that property. So I'm going to give her the stand now, and I just want to thank you guys for coming out.
Excellent, thank you. Asking for a little patience, working through some audio issues.
Questionable, but that was more of a challenge.
Third time's a charm?
That's better.
No, there's something going on here.
Do a test 1, 2. Test 1, 2.
Testing.
Oh my.
You got a microphone? No. Can you hear?
I was good before.
Yeah, you got hear me?
I haven't, if David would say something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
No, that's very.
All right, let's try. So, my name is Dudley. I'm here to Tomek. We have Michaela here from a potential from Bliss. She came here with a presentation. I want to show you guys. I want to show you what you want to do with the property. So I'm going to get after right now, and I'm going to bring her here. And we can see what's going on.
All right, thank you.
Kayla?
Thank you. Thanks.
Don't hurry. Just take your time.
Austin. Okay.
Thank you so much. Yep.
Thank you.
We're good to begin.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, should be good. Yep.
Awesome. So, Lucas, it looks like the host has disabled the screen sharing option.
You need her video.
Vote now.
Yes.
Awesome. Okay, excellent. Hello, everyone. Apologies for the technical difficulties, but I'm happy to be here in front of you all. I'd like to discuss a little bit about how we envision 115 Schofield Ave evolving if the zoning amendment was approved. This is sort of about what the adult use marijuana establishment would look like, would feel like. So I'd love to tell you more. Just some signposting here. We're going to go through a little bit about what the company is about, a little bit more about the location, the property, some future renovations. We have some renderings as well, and then some final thoughts. So a little bit about me for some context. My name's Michaela. Been living in Webster for the past 2 years. I have a bachelor's degree from a design college in Boston. I was a paralegal assistant at a law firm for about 5 years, and I'm currently a product manager at an autonomous vehicle company, which is really exciting, cool tech, cool endeavor. Some qualifications of mine: I have management experience, market experience as well, organizational development, working in a startup is really good. Sorry, sir, do you have a question? Of course.
Michaela, you mentioned the fact that you're currently living in Webster, or have for the past 2 years.
That's correct.
Prior to that, you were
living in my hometown, which is in Middleborough.
Middleborough. Okay, so that the Massachusetts born and bred continues.
That's right, Massachusetts born and bred.
Right.
Absolutely. So yeah, I have some regulations knowledge as well, putting those vehicles out on the roads, which is an advantage of mine. Yes?
Another question, if I may. You the sole owner?
I am, yes.
Is BIS an acronym? Does it have some?
No, I was playing around one day with some words and I thought it might be a cool name. So I just stuck with it and ran with it.
Okay. And you're going to finance this program yourself, is that correct?
Well, my consultant is also functioning as my investor as well, which I can speak more about.
Okay.
So I'll touch on this later as well, but one great advantage of mine, I'm very fortunate to have a consultant with direct industry knowledge in Massachusetts about the cannabis industry here. So a little bit more about what this store will hopefully be. We are an adult use only marijuana establishment. So to be very clear, that's no medical at all. Folks that are coming in are 21 plus with obviously proper identification given. So there's no medical at all. There's no patients, nothing like that. It's all recreational. Touched on this a moment ago, but we are not big cannabis. Small business, family owned, operated, born and bred out of Massachusetts, as I mentioned. A little bit more on resources. So we're fortunate to have the guidance of a consultant who has been part of the cannabis industry solely in Massachusetts, not outside the country at all, solely in Massachusetts. He's helped design, create, and run 4 retail establishments and 105,000 square foot cultivation and manufacturing facility, all locally. So there's a lot there. Any questions on this one? Okay. A little bit more about the brand's core values, what we value, commitment to quality. We're not going to use products that haven't been fully vetted by the CCC, for example. People come in manufacturers, such as Curly, right nearby in Worcester. Innovation, we're looking to elevate the customer experience. We want to create a cool environment where folks come in and feel welcome. Education, this is a big thing in the industry, but it's so important. Educate folks on what exactly the results of the purchase do, really empower them for decisions about the products that they're purchasing. And then with staff, much of it is CCC regulated, which is great, but we want to make sure that all of the staff are fully trained and the training is super robust. Those are some of the core values there. So why Dudley? So the town of Dudley is obviously right next door to Worcester. It's a great neighbor. It's a unique opportunity for the group to support our neighbors, to cultivate an establishment that's rooted in giving back and generating revenue for the town. I mentioned before, but we really want to center the business around the customers and have a mom and pop feel. Nothing really clinical. I really wanted to feel like you're walking into a store where you can already feel comfortable there. And that lends itself to feeling confident in purchasing from people who live right nearby, folks that you might see at the store. That's a good summary of why Dudley, and we've been fortunate to find a location right nearby. We have excellent and yeah.
If I may,
of course.
Mention here of education in terms of educating the consumer.
Yes.
Is there some established curriculum that is recognized by the state for the education of consumers?
They have a various amount of programs that they point to for folks to use, for proprietors to use. There's actually quite a bit of information already out there. There's programs that have already been established for folks to take advantage of. The CCC does a great job with recommending what folks should take advantage of as well. They're supportive of folks that are coming into the industry, I think.
Well, the educational aspect of this is you're going to make those resources available to people. You're going to identify those resources for.
Absolutely. It's part of the training process for anyone that's hired.
Would this be your function, one of your functions?
One of our functions?
You in person.
Yeah, so my idea is to have a lot of one-on-one training, hands-on training. Some of it will be online, but nothing be, in person and hands-on experience. So shadowing, etc.
The staff training aspect of this, again, is there something that the state has a recognized curriculum for, or is there something that you would be putting together?
I'd say it's a combination of both. We'll take advantages of the resources that the CCC has, and also take advantage of literature and that's already in existence from reputable places as well for more robust training.
Staff would be, what requirements would you have in terms of staffing? Age requirement, I assume, at least?
Sure, yeah. So we want to hire folks, first off, locally. I'd love to hire folks that are right in town. That'd be awesome. We're looking for folks that have good customer experience, folks that are personable, folks that have a good track record. CCC requires background checks on everyone, requires folks to be registered in their database as well. Certain parts of the facility are, there's certain levels, and certain folks are only allowed to go into certain places. For example, the vault, where all the product is stored, a very small amount of folks that are able to go in there via ID, So CCC puts in place making sure that they know every single person that is hired. They have their own background process as well. So a little bit more about 115 Schofield. So the reason we are here today to take industrial 43 zoning and amend it to industrial 130. I'll remind folks that the principal difference between the two zones is square footage. So the property is largely in 130,000 square feet. It's actually over 190,000 square feet, or about 4.4 acres. So it does meet the requirements of the zone itself in order to abide by the town's bylaws as well that have been put into place. We would like to amend it to 130 to stay true to that bylaw. There are two zones that are approved for cannabis, which is industrial 130, and then the mill overlay district as well. A little more information about the actual property itself. So it borders Webster. It also meets the state mandated 500-foot buffer zone from schools, daycares, and religious venues, etc. That is put in by Massachusetts law that cannabis facilities cannot be anywhere near those places. There is an abundance of parking. As you can see, this is a site that is somewhat underutilized in that respect.
Excuse me, how many parking spaces do you estimate there are there?
We need to make them, but we can probably accommodate at least 35 to 50 spaces. There's ample parking for employees and as well as the customers that will be coming in. We want to do extensive renovations to the exterior of the site. So abiding by proper security measures, we're looking to install a lot more light. We really want to illuminate all of the parking areas. That's important. Increase the landscaping, making it a bit more welcoming, a bit more lush, and other security measures as well.
As far as the security measures are concerned, is that something you would do in consultation with the police department?
It is. We're actually looking to speak with the chief sooner rather than later to review our plans. CCC has many measures that need to be followed as well, but I'm willing to definitely go above and beyond to make sure that the perimeter is secure and everything is following security measures. Yes.
Is there a definition? Wow.
Hey.
Is there a definition with the state as far as daycares?
It actually varies by town, I believe, but daycares does fall under the list usually of facilities that need to have a 500-foot buffer.
Isn't there a adult daycare facility that abuts this property?
There was one there at one point.
Is it still there?
Is it still there?
I don't believe so. Our butters are, I think, Sass Wolf and Ramco across the road. There's a mechanic there. Ramco owns the entire property, but he sublets to a mechanic there.
To the left of this property is, I thought it was like an adult daycare facility.
To the left, there's not.
No,
not.
You're looking at the building in the street to the left.
It's all open. There's nothing.
Empty lot next to that.
It's more empty lot.
Huh?
It's actually more empty lot.
There's no structure there any longer? Has that been torn down? I thought there was at least a building there at one point.
There was a little building, which I felt maybe it's beyond 500-foot buffer.
I think really when folks are considering.
Yeah. Daycare. When we say you mean like kids or
it's a senior. So where your building is to the left of that is the empty lot, parking lot.
Yeah, and then on the other side is like another contractor, maybe
someone who has potential.
No, on the same side as you.
Now, I'm almost 90% sure that there isn't one. However, I don't know if adult daycare versus child daycare would fall into that criteria. I mean,
that's why I was asking that position.
It's usually for children, to mitigate children from seeing the site or from driving by it often, or walking by it, for example. But there's no. That's a great question, though. That's good clarification.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question for the town planner.
Yes.
Bill, if this is approved, the zoning change is approved, would they still have to go through a site review plan?
It's more than that, Steve. It would be a special permit process.
Okay. All right. So some of the things we're talking about here could actually be hashed out at that point.
I was getting ready to say that. We're getting a lot of questions, and it's great to have the board interest in everything, but a lot of this is really not relevant to what we're here to talk about. A lot of this is would be more relevant when we start talking about special permitting.
And I just had a question about the building, since we were talking about the building. And just so I'm clear on the situation, you're going to be the owner operator of the business. You'll be looking to lease that building from this gentleman, correct?
Yeah, well, my father got it. Yep, that's exactly what's going on.
All right, so the outline of the building here shows the building is 60 feet by 50. This appears to be a lot larger than that. So my question is, what's going in the rest of this building?
That's to be determined, honestly. We don't know yet. Right now there's nothing there currently.
But will she be leasing the entire building, or she just? So you might rent that to some other.
Right now, start with one and see where that goes.
All right, thank you. I don't have any further questions.
Dan?
Yes, Bill.
I do have a clarification on the daycare issue. Up on screen, there's a provision that says there has to be a 500-foot distance from an existing, pre-existing or public or private school. It does not list daycare center as having to have a 500-foot separation. So it's only from a school.
From a school.
All right. Thank you, Bill.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, move on to the next slide here. So actually, I do go in a little bit to some of our abutters. As I mentioned, we have Ramco and auto repair shop. Ramco, as I mentioned, owns the entire property and leases to this mechanic. And then directly next door is Henke Sass Wolf of America. They manufacture medical products. Here's a little bit more information. I'm hoping this sort of clears up maybe the questions of who's on the left here. This is a extremely recent Google Maps screenshot. So as you can see, there really is not much going on here. There's no structure that's actually listed. And I'll direct you over to the zoning map as well. This is exactly where the property is located. You'll notice it is sandwiched between two different mill conversion overlay districts as well. And we have Webster here. So a little bit more about the property itself. The right side is the side that we are looking to rent. This is the side that we will also be renovating. We will not have access to either of the two bays on the left. The divide will be right to the left of that middle door there. We will have access to two doors in the front, one in the rear. So this is a little bit more about where we envision parking to be. As you can see, it does need to be cleaned up a little bit. We fully intend to pave. We're going to install our lighting, as I mentioned, more landscaping, and hopefully some more trees. Hopefully make it more lush, as I mentioned. So something exciting. You all have this in front of you, but this is the mock-up of how we envision the flow to be inside of the store on the main floor. You can see we want folks to come in through that entrance down at the bottom right. We'll cycle them through a hall, and they'll make a loop through the sales floor after purchasing, and then they'll make their way out the exit door. The vault is fully secured. There's one point of ingress and egress. We will be reinforcing, I should say, that exterior wall that borders the outside of the building. As I mentioned, this is a limited, a room where limited folks can come in and out. Only a few folks who are employed will be able to have access to this room. Packaging and deliveries is there as well. It's nice to have an extra space to, to package stuff up if necessary, accept deliveries as well, so you don't have delivery drivers in the vault. So we're trying to make sure that this is a very secure establishment, and we have ADA accessible restrooms, and yeah, we're looking to make this a nice place, an inviting place, as I mentioned. So this is what we envision. Here's a rendering of potentially what the inside could look like, where folks will be purchasing the product. As you can see, they'll sort of walk up to the right of those stairs, to the left of those stairs, and they'll circle around after they make their purchase to head to the exit. As part of the renovations, we want to, like I mentioned, there's a hallway as well. We want to sort of do up this hallway, make it really nice. Have folks have that inviting place to go to make their purchases, and hopefully this will be really nice for the building and be a nice facelift for it. So some numbers to know. $16,000 is about half of the daily sales an average 70 adult use stores claim to be making. So this will be our target, with margin likely to increase. Average ticket sales about $80 per customer. You have customers pulling into the parking area at 20 vehicles about per se an hour. And the frequency with which cars are pulling into the parking area is about every 3 minutes. Post-community impact fee. So 3% of each sale is actually returned to the town. So if you're operating 16,000 in daily sales, that is about $175,200 in revenue for the town at the end of every year. It's possible margins could increase as well. So bear that in mind. Yes, sir.
What would your hours of operation be?
I believe the public bylaw is 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. I don't know so much about the 8 a.m. I like the idea of maybe a 10 a.m. opening time, just to get everything set up. And we don't want to overwhelm folks with an early start time. So I'd say probably 10 a.m. to 8 p.m.
5 days a week, 7 days a week?
Yeah, I think it might be TBD on if folks on Sundays or not. I'd like to say we could keep it open for 7 days. Yeah. We'll do Monday through Sunday.
I don't see the number here, but I did see, I think, something in the neighborhood of between $5 and $6 million anticipate per year.
It could change. So it's hard to say exactly how much revenue an establishment could bring in. There's many variables.
That is just seems like a staggering number, and I know it's not in the purview of this board to question profit. I think maybe some social scientists at some point wonder about the ability to have much discretion in the local area going for the purchase of cannabis. A lot of product for is a relatively small town and relatively small towns.
On the numbers to know page, if I'm reading this correctly, this is based on a 10-hour day.
Yeah, so 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. seems a little daunting to me, but we wanted to give you guys some numbers based on averages. Most places are open about 10 hours a day in the area.
And the 70 surveyed adult use stores, I'm sure that also includes all the stores in Boston. Okay.
Exactly. Yep. It's a wide cast of net there. So
that's why you used half of the daily sales. You want to be pessimist.
Exactly.
Okay.
We don't want to say we're going to be doing.
You want to be conservative about your.
Absolutely.
Potential.
Especially to start, as I mentioned, margins could increase. Margins could be a lot lower. 50% seemed fair when I was reviewing the research to present to everyone. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Of course.
All right, thank you very much for the presentation. You did get a letter to us about the question of spot zoning?
Yes.
Can you hit that?
Join a meeting? Yep.
The number is 843 469 5201. Then click on join. And the passcode is 714 812. Yep. And then we're going to click join meeting. And then we're going to do join with video. And then Bill, can you also, I believe you have to admit everyone? Yes. Kayla, if you're going to be speaking still, I would rejoin.
Join with computer audio.
Yes. So can you just say something to the microphone? Yeah, I can't hear audio from the TV. It's public TV. Can you admit that meeting room 321, Bill? Can you admit meeting room 321? There's another person that we can only admit.
Are we good to go?
I can hear you.
I'm gonna test it real quick.
Okay. Apologize to the board for that mishap there. So the question was to summarize a letter that I recently submitted regarding spot zoning. So for a little bit of context, Selectmen asked to have a rationale as to why this particular zoning amendment is not considered spot zoning. Mr. Scanlon did a lovely job at the most recent town meeting, giving them a nice description. So he almost mirrored exactly what I included in my letter, which was awesome. Essentially, spot zoning is it's when a parcel is zoned out for or requested to be changed for a particular use. Commonly, you can imagine a neighborhood, maybe the owner petitions a town to open up an ice cream shop in town, or in their neighborhood, I should say. That is a very sharp zoning change. What I've proposed in my my letter, which you all have in front of you, after reviewing various findings, legal findings in the state and outside the state as well, spot zoning is when you have a spot zoning that is beneficial, or a change that is beneficial to the town in any way, especially for businesses in Massachusetts. If it is beneficial to the town in any way, shape, or form, it is not considered spot zoning. Something else to consider is if the requested change is sort of homogeneous with the area. In this case, I believe it is. going back for a moment to the benefit of the town, we talked about the 3% revenue. Every sale goes back to the town. We're looking to hire locally. We're looking to hire 15 to 20 jobs locally. Quality jobs, you know, as you can imagine. Concerning, you know, if it's suitable for the area, if the zoning change is suitable for the area. We are staying in an industrial zone. It's not going out to a residential zone or anything like that. And as I mentioned, the principal difference between the two zones is the square footage. It does fall under the appropriate square footage. It is surrounded by other businesses that are offering services to the public, large buildings as well. We're not disrupting any residential areas as well, as you can see from the zoning map. You know, we have Webster on one side, we have land on the other with our abutters who are also offering services as well. So those were the two main arguments that I brought up, and Mr. Scanlon actually mentioned general welfare as well for the town. As you know, the town has accepted another host community agreement with another group. The town has made strides to look for dispensaries in town by creating the bylaws and for, you know, accepting another group as well. So for those reasons, it's outlined a bit better. Research is there. There's citations for other cases. It's all in that letter. Drafted that myself recently after that request came in. So please consider reading it if you can. Yeah, that's a quick summary, or a summary. I don't know if it was quick.
I appreciate it. I did read the letter. It's always good just to have the direct feedback, though.
Sure.
So, just wanted to add a couple things to what Michaela was saying. You know, if you're familiar with the layout of Dudley in that particular area, and just overall Dudley in general, there isn't a lot of small business, I would say.
Mainly bars that are located in Dudley, and mainly towards that side of town. Which is a bit important in the middle of the zoning.
Which also is going to have a grow facility potentially over there. You know, I believe they're in the works with that. I mean, if you cross the river, it's going to be basically right there. In my opinion, it's one of the better locations in Dudley for a facility like this, and that's why we're coming forward and proposing it to the town. And if we didn't think so and we didn't believe in it 100%, you know, we spent a lot of time to make the PowerPoint presentation, come together, make all these business ideas. You know, that's why we're coming here. We think it's a good idea, and we're hoping you guys are on the same page. And like she said, we just want to thank you for the opportunity, and you know, hope that we can move forward with this and get it done.
All right, Ms. Murray, I was like to ask you if you could just give us also an idea what spot zoning is and if you think it's relevant here or not.
Certainly, certainly, Mr. Chairman. So I think Ms. Mann did a nice job in her letter of addressing spot zoning, and you could tell she was a paralegal in a prior occupation. That certainly came through. So essentially, spot zoning is when you single out a particular parcel for special treatment. And the size of the parcel does not matter. So this is a little over 4 acres. I can tell you I've read cases where parcels around 4 acres have been rezoned. They've been challenged to spot zoning, and they've been upheld as not being spot zoning. But what the court will look to is what are the characteristics of this particular parcel? How does that parcel similar to or different from surrounding parcels? As has been noted, this is in the industrial 43 zoning district. They want to rezone to the industrial 30. When you look at your use table, all of the uses that are allowed in the industrial 130 are also allowed in the industrial 43, with the exception of the marijuana establishment. So the surrounding parcels would be zoned for similar uses. This isn't a situation where we're going from residential to commercial. We are still staying within industrial. I do think that this is a situation where I think the board could consider this, and I think it could withstand a legal challenge.
Excellent, thank you. So I don't have the full background. I've only been on the board for like 3-4 years. Bill, I know you haven't been here that long as well. But just as in a typical situation, why would a town zone an area industrial 130?
Both of those districts were adopted in 1969 when the town first enacted its zoning bylaw and zoning map. The industrial 130 district, there are, I think, 3 of them, and they are in the western part of town, where the lot sizes are generally much larger. This area is an older part of the community, and it had an industrial character at the time, so it made sense to zone it industrial. And the town at that time decided to go with a 1 acre minimum lot size, which sort of met the prevailing lot pattern that existed at the time. Even though there were some larger parcels, the 43,560 square foot minimum lot size made sense so that existing industrial parcels would not be made non-conforming. So I think this area was zoned industrial 43 to reflect the prevailing land use pattern and the existing lot sizes and frontage requirements that were in existence at the time the town adopted zoning.
All right, and then let's assume that a trucking company wanted to buy this lot, put up a 70,000 square foot building for distribution or something similar. And they're requesting us to go, or they're requesting then to change this from 43 to 130. Would that be spot zoning?
Well, I think, as town council pointed out, the uses are virtually the same, so there would be no need to request a zoning map change in that case.
I guess I'm trying to figure out the portion or the part of this whole argument that goes from benefit. You know, if the town gets a benefit is what we're hearing, then it's not spot zoning. And so if a trucking company came in that didn't have the financial clout that this facility has, and the town's not getting that much revenue from it, would it be a benefit then to change it for a trucking company, or would it be a spot zoning? I know it's a theoretical question. It's a tough question to answer. Maybe it's impossible to answer.
You know, each case has to be taken on its own merits. I think we would look to, does that fit with the town's long-range goals for that particular district? Is it a desirable land use? Does it provide a public benefit? So I think you'd have to look at each case. Yep. So I could see in the scenario that you laid out that we'd probably come to a similar finding that it would not be spot zoning, but depending on the circumstances, it could be. So it's very much of a fact-finding kind of exercise.
Yeah, so just want to touch base on that, and you know, Bill knows better than I do, but you know, from what I've been hearing is that spot zoning basically, if it doesn't impact the surrounding community, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Construction companies are all around that area, you know, so my answer would be that I do not think that that would be spot zoning, because it would be basically what's already going on in that area. And with another thing is that, you know, it's going to create a lot of jobs. You know, 3% of the revenue, or 3% of the sales is taxed and stuff like that. You know, and that's kind of just what I wanted to outline, is that it's not a heavily trafficked area. It's not like it's going to be causing a bunch of traffic downtown and all that other good stuff. Plenty of parking, and like, you know, this lady right here was saying that it basically has the same potential as 43, or industrial 43. And with marijuana being, you know, the new, you know, came out, you know, sales and all that other stuff, legality within the past 3 years, it's almost like we're kind of limited as to where we can put dispensaries, with that being the Mill District and, you know, Industrial 130, right? So, you know, there isn't any other locations where we can do it, and this is honestly a great location in my opinion. And like I said, with the whole municipality thing of the sale of marijuana and the you know, the harvesting of it, agricultural growing, whatever, this is kind of where we were put. So there almost are no other options in my opinion.
Okay. Lou, you're waiting patiently online. Do you have any questions?
No, I'm just listening.
All right. Any other questions from the board?
At
Steve,
this
no.
time.
Bill, no.
Just a
No.
just a comment. Just a comment. I think that's an ideal location.
So similar, well, we have the same option now as we had with the first item on the agenda. We can either try to have a motion and a vote tonight, or we can wait until next meeting. Does my board feel it's ready to?
We need to close the public hearing?
I just want to see if the board's ready to vote or all now. If there's any further discussion.
Mr. Chairman,
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman. My only comment would be, I'm not particularly fond of the nature of your business. I wish you were making Legos as opposed to selling marijuana. But obviously the world is what it is, and to stand in the way of this is to try to put your part of your anatomy in front of a steamroller, I suspect. So I think it's somewhat inevitable that we will have either you or someone else, either at this location or some other location. So it's, again, the word inevitable comes to mind.
Mr. Chairman, I may not be correct. Maybe Bill can back me up on this, but I believe the selectmen were hoping to have a decision by Friday. Was that this? Yeah. So I think we should try and make a decision.
I'm ready to vote. I'm just want to make sure everybody else is. I don't want to.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, so.
Dan, before you close, before you close, you might want to ask if there's any other comments from the public.
That is an excellent idea. Do we have any questions or comments from the public? Bill, you're monitoring this, right?
Yes.
Excellent. Doesn't look like it.
Who is that phone number?
Don't know.
Are they trying to come aboard?
Not that I can tell. They're not muted. Who is this person on the call? 508-378-8900?
I don't recognize it.
I don't see any comments, do you?
Okay, no.
All right, seeing no comments from anybody online or the Zoom or Facebook meeting, we will close the public hearing. And we're free. Well, I'm going to just piggyback onto what Mr. Clark said. I do not like the idea that what this facility is, but that is not a question right now that we're dealing with in any way, shape, or form. We're dealing with the, I guess, the legality of changing the zoning. And I'm ready to vote on that easily, so ready to accept it.
Can I get a point of clarification on tonight's meeting? When the Zoom meeting ended, the initial Zoom meeting ended, that Zoom meeting was posted on the website for any of the public that wanted to access it. When we restarted the Zoom meeting, was that a new ID? I'm just concerned whether or not anybody's going to say that they were unable to access.
As you can see, I'm recording this now, and it's going live on Facebook. So we will put the second part 2 portion up on the website as well.
Yeah, I guess that's not my question isn't whether or not people are going to be able to see the second part. My question is whether or not there would be somebody out there right now who has no idea how to get into this Zoom meeting. Is that possible?
All right. Did we lose anybody? When we went dark there for a bit, did we lose anyone?
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, that's all I wanted to make sure.
And with the public meeting closed, are we ready to make a motion?
Yes.
Talk to me, guys.
Yes.
Who wants to make the motion?
Make a motion to change the present zone to industrial 130 to allow the use of a marijuana distribution facility.
So we're voting for the change, or we're voting to put it on the warrant?
You're voting to make a recommendation to town meeting.
Oh, okay. Make a recommendation. for town
Remember how they
meeting.
grilled me on that and made me reword it? You got to do the same thing.
Yeah, yeah. So I'd like to make a motion that we recommend the zoning at 115 Schofield Ave, Dudley be changed from industrial 43 to industrial 130.
All right, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Well, again, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Perrin, we'll start with you.
Yes.
I have one. Bill?
Yes.
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Richard?
Yes.
And yes, myself. So we have a 5 unanimous. All right. Thank you for your time, your presentations, answering our questions, everything else. It's appreciated. See you guys at the town meeting.
We'll be there. Thank you all very, very much.
All right. That means we're almost done, correct?
That was the only item on the agenda.
All righty.
Chairman, I make a motion to adjourn if that's in order.
Just wanted to thank Ms. Murray for being here.
Sure.
For,
Certainly.
Thank you very much.
for your patience and everything else, and for answering our questions. It's appreciated.
Sure.
All right.
Now, finally. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we adjourn.
I have a motion.
Second.
I have a second. We'll do a roll call vote. Lou, what do you think?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Richard?
Yes.
And myself, unanimous. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.
Good night.